Morning, everyone. All right. Well, I'm thrilled to be here with you this morning, and happy to be amply supplied with bacon. I never would have thought it possible that a person could have too much bacon, and I tested that out at a breakfast at a church I was attending, and I found that, in fact, such a thing is possible. So today, I'm not usually a moderate person, and today I managed to hit that mark. I'm very proud of myself. So my goal today is to tell you about Better Angels, who we are, what we do, and hopefully to inspire some of you to join us in our work. I'm going to ask you to consider organizing red-blue workshops and skills workshops and debates in your communities. And I'm going to inspire all of us, I hope, to do no harm in our relationships with each other. What do you tell a guy in a hole? Stop digging. And what we're doing now, especially on social media, it's really easy to dig the hole deeper. So I have some handouts over there that folks might be interested in, and I'll share some thoughts and experiences that have changed the way I look at stuff in our political environment. So what we're doing at Better Angels, we're offering people who have forgotten how to be citizens and leaders, or who never knew how to be citizens and leaders, an opportunity to step forward, overcome their fear, overcome their distrust, start a conversation, and stay in the conversation. So that's what we want to do with folks. I heard somebody say that we create moments where real healing is possible between conservatives and liberals. And when I think about healing, what do you heal from? You heal from a disease, illness, sickness. So dis-ease is where I go with this, because right now in our society, and for the last 2 years, at least 3 years, I've kind of been in a state of dis-ease. And so that for me is political polarization. So I'll throw some facts at you, because everybody likes facts early in the morning. And I do want credit for not doing a PowerPoint, right? Because how can you do that to people? So some people say that we are more polarized now than we have been since the Civil War. I think that's true. It's not affecting ourselves and our business relationships. It's affecting friends and families. Did you guys see the story in the New York Times that Thanksgiving visits after the 2016 elections ran 30 to 50 minutes shorter than Thanksgiving visits the year before? So this was if I'm from a town that's typically liberal and I'm visiting somebody in a town that's generally conservative, those visits ran 30 to 50 minutes shorter. The techies who did this study figured out that we lost 34 million minutes of cross-party polarization or cross-party interaction in Thanksgiving 2016. This problem's been going on for at least 30 years, maybe 40 years. It's not a 2-year-old problem. It's been going on a lot longer. Here's another factoid. In 1960, only 5% of Americans said they would be uncomfortable with their son or daughter marrying someone from the other political party. 35 to 40% said they'd be uncomfortable with their child marrying somebody of another race. Those trend lines have reversed. Today, 35 to 40% of people would be uncomfortable with their kid marrying somebody from the other party, and 5% with an interracial marriage. So now comes the audience participation part. Are you ready? Have you been adequately caffeinated? We'll see. Actually, maybe you'll be more compliant. I'm going to ask you to do something. I'll give you 2 minutes to do it, and then I'll ask for your attention again by doing this. Please raise your hand if you can hear me, right? So, You are compliant. That's very good. So the question is, what are the sources of this polarization? And I'm going to ask you to resist the temptation to say that it's because of them. That's not an acceptable answer for this exercise. Also, I'll ask you to resist the temptation to say that it's about the last presidential election. The trend's been increasing for decades, and it's happening throughout the world. So if you would take 30 seconds to reflect silently on what is the cause of this increased polarization, and then I'll ask you to turn to the person next to you to talk about that for 2 minutes. Okay, let's bring it back. I love that. What a feeling of power. So here's the question. What are the causes of this polarization? Would somebody like to offer something?
Well, I was going to go back to geology, but I'll come up a little further than that. Economic disparity.
And you think that's reflected in the red-blue split as well?
I think that's,
Yeah.
without digging down to geology, that's where the roots lie.
Okay. Somebody else?
I think fear of the other.
Yeah. Anyone else?
Reactivism.
Say again?
Reactive. Everyone's very reactive.
Yeah, a little thin skin too, aren't we?
The rapid pace of change.
Okay.
Cruelty.
Cruelty.
Social media.
Social media.
This boils down to fear.
Fear. I like that one. Anyone else? Yes.
Multiple sources of information, many more.
We can't agree on facts.
Isolation.
Meaning,
We're geographically or geologically, we're still in the same space, but somehow we're interacting less.
and we're interacting with people who believe as we do. Anyone else? I know it's early. You've done well. How about gerrymandering? How about money in politics? How about the fact that moderate conservatives and moderate liberals, they don't exist so much anymore, right? There aren't people in the middle as politicians. People are more to the end of the spectrum. So liberal Republicans and conservative Democrats have pretty much vanished. All of these things have kind of come together in a bit of a perfect storm, haven't they? And here we are, divided from each other. For me, I experience that as a sense of dis-ease. And my question was, after the election, what am I going to do about this? So I had a really easy answer, and that was to hate everyone and everything conservative. And so I proceeded to do that. And I'm in the insurance business, and I know a lot of insurance agents, and many of them are entrepreneurs. And many entrepreneurs tend to be fiscally conservative, and some of these folks are socially conservative. And I like and respect these people. And so I had to deal with the dissonance that arises with hating all things conservative, and yet I like and respect people, some of whom are conservative. And the other thing that bothered me about my thinking was that all of us, I think without exception, want to be safe and happy, free from fear and harm. We want that for our children and for our communities. And so how do I hate somebody who wants the same thing that I do? I saw something about Better Angels in July of 2017 and got involved, went down to North Carolina, became trained to be a moderator of Red Blue workshops. And now I'm serving as a volunteer. I'm coordinator for New England, and I'm also spearheading rolling out Better Angels debates across the country. So this work gives me hope that one day we might be able to talk with one another. We might be able to arrive at an accurate understanding of our differences, as opposed to stereotyping each other and making up the differences that we expect exist. So here's what our mission statement says. Launched in 2016, Better Angels is a bipartisan citizens movement to unify our divided nation. By bringing red and blue Americans together into a working alliance, we're building new ways to talk to one another, participate together in public life, and influence the direction of the nation. So that's what we say about ourselves. A guy on the Upper West Side in New York talked to a guy in South Lebanon, Ohio, after the election. These two worked together in the Institute for American Values, from which we sprang. And on the Upper West Side, on the day after the election, it was as if everyone's best friend died the day before. And in South Lebanon, Ohio, they were dancing in the streets. And these two guys, David and David, as it happens, decided that they should try to do something. And so they had a workshop in South Lebanon, Ohio, 2.5-day workshop with conservatives and liberals. So they booked a venue, they filled the workshop, and then they thought, okay, now we got to decide what to do. So Bill Doherty, a marriage counselor, a owner of a counseling practice and a professor at the University of Minnesota, designed the workshop for the first Red-Blue workshop. And people experienced great transformation as a result of the workshop. And we've heard this repeated after every workshop I've been in. People say they don't stereotype the other side as much. They now, bless you, they now believe in the good intentions of the people on the other side. And they say that they're not as far apart as they'd been led to believe they are. So the first workshop went really well, 2.5 days. And after this, David and Bill said, well, what now? Oh, well, let's do another one. They did another one. What now? Well, let's do another one. They did another one. Then they got on a bus and they started doing them along the eastern seaboard. They went to St. Albans, Vermont, White Plains, New York, McLean, Virginia, Nashville, Tennessee, Raleigh-Durham, North Carolina. And that was in the spring and summer and fall of 2017. There were 3 workshop moderators in the beginning, and in this sweep of doing workshops, they also trained a bunch of moderators. And subsequently, we now have online training for moderators. So we have around 250 workshop moderators who are able to do this work for Better Angels now. So the centerpiece, I think, of our offerings is called a Red-Blue workshop. And what we do is we get a red organizer and a blue organizer, people who also are distressed at the way things are going in our country. They agree to work together to make a workshop happen. They find a venue. They clear the dates with our moderator cadre, so they've got a couple moderators. And then they go forth to recruit participants, 6 reds, 6 blues, for a total of 7 reds and 7 blues. They ask these participants 2 questions. The answer has to be yes. Are you interested in listening to the other side? Are you willing to engage in a respectful conversation with the other side? They also recruit 15 observers. And these are people who are silent and impassive during the workshop exercises, but who are encouraged to interact with everybody during lunch. So 29 people in this room for 6 hours of workshop exercises and 1 hour of lunch. And however long they stay afterwards, you have to chase them out with a broom. They don't want to leave. So that's a Red-Blue workshop. We've had around 200 in the US this year. In Massachusetts, we started in March in East Hampton, in July in Brookline and in Northampton, in September in Malden. We had one in October in Greenfield, and one scheduled next week in Northampton or East Hampton. And then in December, we're going to have one in Wellesley. So there's a bunch of this stuff going on in Massachusetts right now. What we tell our organizers at the beginning of the organizing is, we want you to make this workshop happen. But what we really want is for the people who attend this workshop to decide to continue to meet with each other in the weeks and months and years to come. We want red-blue alliances to form as a result of these workshops, half red, half blue, led by a red and a blue jointly, and whatever actions they undertake have to be agreed upon by at least 75% of the reds and 75% of the blues. So it has to be a joint effort. And they might offer more workshops, or they might do a park cleanup. Who knows what people might decide to do together as a group of reds and blues. So in these workshops, 4 exercises to help people. We create a space where folks can listen to one another without needing to become defensive or organize a rebuttal to whatever it is they've heard. So they can hear the people on the other side. And we think of ourselves as infinitely varied in our blueness. Some are bluer than others. And we think of the folks on the other side as being monolithically red. They all hold the same opinion. And we learn through the exercises in the workshop that that is not the case. So that's a red-blue workshop. And I'd love it if some people got inspired to do that here. This would be a great room for that, by the way.
Rob, you started off with a 2.5-day workshop, and now it's
7 hours.
7 hours.
Yeah. So we also do skills workshops. And these are popular before the holidays. It's a instruction and role-playing interaction where folks are welcomed in. There's no requirement for red-blue balance as there is in a red-blue workshop. And we talk about how to listen to folks across this political divide and how to speak with folks across the political divide. So it is essentially a communications workshop that, everybody's probably gone to 6 of these in their working lives, but it's oriented towards political issues and political volatility. And we do role-playing around speaking and listening with respect to political issues. We're using immigration and gun control and red and blue talking points on those things. We also just rolled out Better Angels debates. So one of our board members loves debate. I cannot imagine being such a person. She loves debates. And apparently she has friends who love debates. And they get together on Saturday afternoons and have debates. I don't understand it. But what she's done is she's designed Better Angels debates. And so you say the word debate, and for me that recalls high school, right? Where you're forced to talk about something. You could care less about it if you were dead, I suppose. And you have to advocate a position in which you don't believe, and you have to use rhetorical skills which you don't possess to win an argument you don't care about. So that's not this. So a Better Angels debate is a group of people who come together to talk about and listen to others talk about a particular issue, the resolution. And that resolution should split the body of people assembled. About half of them should be for it, and about half of them should be against it. And there are any number of resolutions that you might choose, but it's got to be interesting to the group, or they're going to find something else to do that night. It's got to split the body. It's really good if it has an emotional hook for people, that it can tie into their personal stories and their personal experiences, and also have a theoretical or philosophical aspect. And first one happened in Northampton, Massachusetts on October 22nd, and we're going to be rolling these out throughout the country as well. We're also doing them in high schools. We worked with the College Board and an organization called Journey Through Hallowed Ground, which memorializes and commemorates and provides information about historic sites in the Virginia, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, Maryland area around Civil War battlefields and events. So they had the National History Academy this summer in Virginia outside DC, and a group of high school kids were trained as debate chairs and ran weekly debates across 5 different classes for 5 weeks. And remarkable experiences that these kids relate. We are also doing it in colleges. In East Tennessee State University in Johnson City, we had a debate last April, and I think there are some scheduled now. And also recently, in the beginning of October, at American University in DC, and maybe even more recently than that. So what do these debates do? We tell people the most important rule is that they have to say what's true for them. They might have an argument that they could win really easily, but if they don't believe it, they can't bring that argument forward. They have to talk about what they believe. It's okay for them to be unsure. It's okay for them not to know. There can be nuance and ambiguity. They can express that. In fact, we really like that when they do it. And they can change their mind halfway through and get up and speak again and say, well, I've changed my mind, and here's why. So it's a way for people to hear other people, to learn more about the various viewpoints on a matter, and to develop a deeper community with the people in that room. The first one we had in a bar. So it was in the back room of the bar. And then a bunch of us stayed for drinks and appetizers afterwards. And I don't know when the last of them left, but I didn't last the whole night. So those are the 3 things we're doing right now. There are some other things that are under consideration. The skills workshop initially was designed for reds and blues together, whoever showed up. Now we have a skills workshop that's designed for blues only. Here's some things you need to know when you talk to people who are conservative. And we've got one in design process for reds only. Here's what you need to know when you talk to liberals. So we want people talking with one another. We want them listening to one another. We don't really care what they come up with. They're smart. They're able to run their lives. Once they're sitting with one another, amazing things seem to happen. So we're hoping alliances form out of this. And what we hope is that we've started a grassroots movement that will, over the course of 5 to 10 years, change the way that we do business politically in the United States. So I mentioned that I was on this hate all conservatives kick. Now I have conservative friends. I actually find that conversations with people who don't think as I do are more interesting and challenging to me. That I really, I know all the arguments on the blue side, and we'll just do it again, 8 million times. But when I'm talking to a conservative, I actually have to think, and then I have to go away and do research. And it's like, okay, well, is that true? And what more can I learn about this? So I'm finding it really intellectually fulfilling, and I've come to believe, I saw an article that Axios did about how there now are no more Republican representatives in the Northeast. And I really have mixed feelings about that. After the last 2 years, I think it's a really good thing that Democrats now have control over the House. No more law will be enacted that is perceived by half of our country to be harmful. So I think that's a good thing. But I'm not sure that it's a good thing that we've shut Republicans out of government in the Northeast. I think that it takes all of us. It takes all of us to do this. And to shut out the views of half of the people in the country, I think leaves us a lesser body and less equipped to deal with the challenges we face in our communities and in our states and nationally. So that's a recent epiphany. I posted something like that on Facebook and expect to be beaten severely for it by my blue friends. I think they've all just like snoozed this idiot. So what I hope to do here is to inspire some of you to consider becoming organizers for a Red Blue workshop, or to take the notion of a skills workshop to Rotary, or to the Chamber of Commerce, or to some group you're in. I'm hoping that somebody wants to move this forward in this area. So that's my goal in coming here today, is to get you guys interested enough to do something about this. I hope I've succeeded in that. If not, I've gotten great practice. So I think we're done now, aren't we?
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you.